The devastating wildfires continue to ravage Los Angeles, with new fires popping up last night and seemingly being contained, although the major fires on the outskirts of LA continue effectively uncontained at this point. And we want to give you an update about the damage that's been done, as well as what's being done to contain it. 5 people have been reported to have lost their lives in the fires thus far. More than 2,000 structures have burned, and at least 130,000 residents are under evacuation orders because of the continued spread of the wildfires, despite the fact that the wind has thankfully died down to a great extent from the past 48 hours. Now, because of that prior wind, though, that's why we had so much of a spread, as well as complicating the effort to fight the fires. And we want to show you just a little bit of on-the-ground footage talking about the fact that these embers can just spread so fast and so far. Take a look at this. This is Anderson Cooper.
Pan up, but look at all these embers just flying up. You see them in the smoke. All of that. The winds are have died down here, but those can just get picked up by winds for miles, and they can go for miles and light down, fall on somebody's roof, and a whole new fire will pop up. So this house is gone. This house is now underway. The left side of this house is ignited, and also now the house nearby it. But literally, these embers are like snowflakes. They're falling all around us. The sun, this is what's so crazy. If you can't even see the sun, it is completely blacked out.
Yeah, so absolutely devastating, and that for me, like we've experienced fires. I've lived in LA for just in like a week. I'm gonna hit 13 years. But these wildfires are closer and more intense to LA than anything that I've experienced. And finding out that thanks to those Santa Ana winds, embers can potentially blow and still ignite fires 2 or 3 miles away. That was definitely something that I had to learn. Now, you've been covering these fires exhaustively, probably to the point where you are exhausted. Can you tell us a little bit about your reporting and some of the officials you've been talking to, what they've told you about the effort to fight these fires?
Yeah, I've been anchoring in 14-hour shifts. So I was basically going commercial free nonstop for about 14 hours a day. Yesterday, I was out with President Biden and Governor Newsom in the morning. So I worked about a 20-hour day yesterday talking about this. So there's a lot of different places we can go in terms of talking about what's happening. But why is it so bad? Let's start with that. Why is it so bad, and where are we going from here? The reason that it was so bad was that a couple days ago, we had some of the worst winds in the history of LA County. And what that did was it meant that the firefighting aircraft couldn't fly. Basically, it was, first off, it was dangerous for a lot of the pilots to fly. Secondly, dropping from the air, if you have winds going 80 miles an hour, the water doesn't go where you want it to go. It doesn't go where you're trying to drop it. And so because they didn't have the aircraft, they couldn't quickly get a lot of water on this stuff. And so then they had to do everything from the ground. And then they had a situation in parts of Pacific Palisades where the fire hydrants were literally running out of water. They tried to fill up the tanks as quickly as they could. They had to fill them up 3 times, but there were periods where they just had no water. And so the firefighters now can attack it from the air, and they can't attack it from the ground. So all they could do was basically watch these homes burn. So basically what you had happening was you have the winds swirling, and there's no way to put water on it from the air. There's no way to put water on it from the ground. And then the winds start taking embers potentially 2 miles this direction, 2 miles this direction. Then there's a new fire. Then there's a new fire over here. And firefighters did the best that they could. It's not like they had no water throughout the course of the night. That also is an inaccurate reporting. And in some places, they were able to stop and save property. But in a lot of cases, they just weren't. And then to make it even worse, we had the fire that started in Pacific Palisades, and then we have another fire that started in Altadena. That's where Anderson Cooper's reporting was from. And so then where do you send crews to? Do you send them to Pacific Palisades? Do you send them to Altadena? Then we had another fire break out in Sylmar. Then we had last night a fire break out in Hollywood. The good news in terms of where we're at That fire that we saw in Hollywood last night, which is the iconic area, Runyon Canyon. A lot of people are familiar with that. Not that far from the Hollywood sign. Even if you don't live in LA, you've seen images of that. Very different firefight last night than the night before. Because the winds weren't as dramatic, we're able to get the air drops on top of it really quickly. It wasn't spreading miles in different directions, and a fire that looked really scary for about an hour and had a lot of people evacuating Hollywood was basically put out in an hour and a half, no structures burned. That's usually the way that firefighting goes in Los Angeles. And so the good news so far, if there's any, it appears that we're out of that just unbelievable crisis, life or death situation that we were in for a couple days. But now, as you start to see the images of what's left behind, especially in a neighborhood like Pacific Palisades, it is just devastating. I mean, it looks like it literally, I mean, I hate the phrase because it's overused, but it does look like a bomb went off and entire neighborhoods are no longer there. And you just think about every single person who's impacted, and whether they're wealthy or not. And we have people both that have lost homes in this situation. A lot of this stuff is priceless. I mean, you're talking about jewelry from your grandmother, or family heirlooms, or all the rest of it that are inside your home, family pictures, all the rest of it, and now completely wiped out.
Yeah, lives completely thrown upside down. You lose everything, and then there's of course the knock-on effect of, while you're trying to recover, how do you work? The economic effect that it has on the whole area, the communities that are utterly disrupted, the businesses that in some cases have been around for decades, a century, utterly destroyed.
And speak of how do you work, I mean, there was also major problems with the evacuations. I don't know if you saw the images of all the cars that were left behind. Literally, people could not get out of the road, so they literally got out of their cars and were running, and so then fire crews couldn't get on the road because there were all these cars left there. So they brought in a bulldozer to bulldoze hundreds of cars off to the side of the road, and now all those cars are totaled. So now not only did the people lose their homes potentially and everything there, they lost their car, so they can't go anywhere. So that's also compounding this whole situation.
Yeah. If people aren't familiar with this area of Pacific Palisades and Malibu and all of that, like some people might think, well, just evacuate, go in different directions. No, in many of these places, there's a road. There's the road that takes you along the ocean or whatever. And so if it's blocked up, there's nothing you can do. And that's previously happened with mudslides and things like that, just traffic too in LA. And so that obviously compounded this as well. So the situation continues to develop. I know you were talking about, the inability to get those helicopters and planes in the air. And then once the wind died down, I saw some video of some of the drops last night in that Hollywood fire. And it's amazing what they're capable of doing, how effective it can be once you can have it. Now, hopefully, I saw some predictions that the winds could rise up again next week. Hopefully those two major fires are contained by that point. There's obviously the threat of more fires potentially breaking out next week. But at this point, at least, we've had support crews and help coming in from all over California. Joe Biden has dispatched military assistance. And so hopefully if more fires do develop, there will be more on the ground and in the air support to deal with it at that point.
Yeah, Monday we're supposed to get the winds back, but significantly less than what we had in the middle of this week. So it'll be a sort of normal Santa Ana wind event. The wind event that we had this week is winds that we've seen like 3 times in 5 years. That's not what we're expecting for Monday.
Yeah. And honestly, at least where I'm at in LA, I haven't seen winds like that. They were saying they were on the bounds of like a Category 1 hurricane at one point, which is not what we normally expect.
Yeah, but I do want to Monday, an important point for Monday too, which is in your neighborhood, is there's supposed to be an NFL playoff game at SoFi Stadium. The Rams are hosting the Vikings. And so that's something that the NFL just announced yesterday, that if there's more fires, they're going to move that games to Arizona. So they have potential contingency plans in place.
Which, by the way, obviously the eyes of the nation are on LA. Arizona has also been dealing with some fires, but not threatening urban areas in the same way as in LA, although they are dealing with some fires, including some significant ones, by the way.
When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?